He's worked with a lot of the folks that I know. Kevin has also developed a highly successful personality test that has helped various professional football teams evaluate potential draft choices, and that's a tough thing. Kevin is the author of 2 books, Nerves of Steel and The Pep Talk. He has some fantastic stories and is really a pleasure to listen to. Please help me welcome Dr. Kevin Elko. Thank you.
Hey, Michael, I have little cards on my talk. Can I get someone to hand them out?
Yep.
Thank you. I appreciate that so much. Michael, let me have someone just hand out these cards, if you will. With these spotlights, I can barely see you guys. All those wonderful things he said about me. I'm from West Virginia, so I hope you even understand me. That'd be a good night for me. I guess I'm supposed to stand up here and inspire you, so here's the first thing I got that's inspiring. Good night. See, I'm all the way country. I stand up here and get tears in my eyes. Called my wife, said, I just wish you were here. I started out as a football coach in Pittsburgh, and I went back to school in West Virginia, got my master's, my doctor's, and my twang at West Virginia University. I tried to get the Bills and the Browns off my resume. I apologize. I saw y'all got stirred over in there. But I actually have 4 books out. I've had 2 come out this summer. One went to number 28 yesterday. It was called True Greatness. The other was called Touchdown. All my talks are about what I'm going to say next. This is my doctorate. It's in cognitive psychology. Listen to the whole deal. Ready? I said to myself. That's my whole deal. That's really it. I was down working with the Super Bowl team Monday. I talk about it. I said to myself. I'm with the Alabama Crimson Tide. Every time I talk with them, I said to myself. I was walking down the street. I said to myself. I'll walk in the airport tomorrow morning. I'll say it as soon as I walk in. Kevin, if you're easygoing, this might be easy. Kevin, let peace be the umpire. Talking to you. And let me tell you what I'm going to get into today. I'm going to get into how do people talk to themselves who enjoy their life. Now, I learned something about this part of the country. I spoke at the Short Hills Hilton yesterday. I learned this about 5 years ago. They love to bring me in New Jersey. I don't know why. My books sell the best in New Jersey and Alabama. That don't make no sense to me. But anyway, I go into Short Hills Hilton. A man walks up to me and goes, Doc, I went to my wife of 38 years and asked her this morning, honey, would you marry me again? Now, I learned something about New Jersey, New York. Don't ask anybody in this room a question unless you want the answer. I learned that. So she looked at him and said, no way. That never happened. Guy comes home, wife's in a beautiful black suit, luggage all around her. He said, what's going on? She goes, I'm leaving you. He said, this all of a sudden. She said, I can't take it anymore. He said, is there someone else? She said, there just has to be. The women like that more than you men, I've noticed over in there. So the New Jersey guy looks at his wife, would you marry me again? She said, no way. Now, if you get down south where I'm from, you ask your wife down south, will you marry me again? You know she'll look at you and say, well, bless your heart. That also means no way. The Jersey guy goes, man, I'm glad my wife said it. I thought it was my own personal misery. Look, can I lay something on you? You got to get this. This is all more. Do you know that, okay, now watch this. Events don't cause what somebody feels. What they tell themselves about the event does. I get into performance, but I want to lay this on you before we get any further. Guy hits on the lottery. Millions, plural. Guy's in an accident at the same time. He's paralyzed. 3 years pass. This don't even make any sense. Which of those 2 men report being happy? The paralyzed guy. That's a fact. 80% of the time, it's the paralyzed guy. Now think, why? Let me tell you why. It's real easy. The paralyzed guy's not judging life. He's saying something very different. He's looking for blessings. I got to ask you this before we get into it. I'm going to try to answer this. How do you talk to you? That's what we're going to get into. So I left West Virginia. I went to the United States Olympic Committee. I left the Olympic Committee. I went to the International Olympic Committee. I was living and working in Greece. And I'll tell you something. I figured something out in Greece. I love being American. Man, I'm telling you, if you don't understand, it's kind of like standing here looking at this tonight. If you don't understand what we got, just don't have it for a little bit. So let me explain to you culture shock. I left Athens, Greece, and moved to Pittsburgh. I came in with the guy with the big chin, Bill Cowher. Incidentally, I was there 1 month with Chuck Noll. What Chuck Noll used to say every day with the Steelers now hangs in Peyton Manning's locker. Pressure is something you feel when you don't know what you're doing. Pretty good. But I come in with Cowher, the head coach of the Steelers. Work on TV now, some on ESPN. I run across him now and then. So I go, what do you want me to do for you, the Steelers? You know, we've had the second best record in football for 25 years up in there. I go, what you want me to do for you? Oh, he gets going. He goes, you're going to help me select athletes based on attitude. So I go, what does that mean? Now he gets really fired up. He goes, our athletes here don't know the meaning of the word fear. I said, they don't know the meaning of most words. you're easy, Jason. I'm just playing. Man. I only bench press a hoagie. I ain't in the mood to get beat up on here tonight. Watch what he said next. Overcoming adversity. Talking to you. So while you're enjoying your meal and your company, what I'm going to do is I'm going to lay out a couple things I do, what I write about, what I research, what I look at. There are things people say to themselves that contribute to having a full life. Here comes the first one. Ready? And I'm telling you, I say it out loud. I actually got this from a guy in Atlanta, Creflo Dollar. He goes, the most important thing you do is have things roll off your tongue. If you stand behind me, you'll hear this one a lot. Ready? Your money's not your wealth, your time is. Lost my dad a year ago, I got it. Your time is. Came out of church the other day, I saw a bumper sticker. Said, money talks. Mine's been saying goodbye. And can I ask you this question? How would you do all of this if you had a year? Come on, how would you do it? Who would you hang out with? What would the conversation? What would your concerns be? What would you get into? Baseball pitcher for the New York Mets, Tug McGraw, came out with this phrase, you got to believe. They trade him to the Phillies. They interview him in Philadelphia. They ask him, what do you like better? AstroTurf or grass? He says, I don't know. I've never smoked AstroTurf. His son's a country western singer. His name's Tim McGraw. He married Faith Hill. Back where I'm from, we call that out kicking your coverage. Just good. Had to get one for the men. That baseball pitcher passed away 6 years ago, January 6th. He's buried in a town called Rosetta, in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. A song came over the desk of a country western singer a few months later. He said, man, that's my dad there. He recorded it's a song of the year. It was about a guy who had a bad x-ray. Went to his friend, said, it's over. His friend said, what you do when you realize it? Oh, I know this made it to the city. It's about a guy who had a bad x-ray. He said, what you do when it's over? He said, I went skydiving. I went Rocky Mountain climbing. I went 2.7 seconds on this bull named Fu Manchu. I loved deeper. I even spoke sweeter. Here it comes. We're going to talk about this later. I gave forgiveness I've been denying. He said, I hope you get the chance to live like you're dying. Guy's losing his wife, goes over to her, she got cancer. He says, can I ask you a question? What's it feel like knowing that you're dying? She goes, can I ask you a question? What's it feel like pretending like you're not? What if you had a year? Guy goes to the doctor's. Doctor says, man, you're in bad shape. You got a year to live. That's it. He said, Doc, is there anything I could do? He said, give all your money to charity. Go to some backwoods shack and marry the first woman you can find who has 9 kids. He said, well, save me? The doctor said, nope. But it will be the longest year of your life. My recent book, Touchdown, came out in the summer. My last chapter is called Let Your Heart Hear It. And I'm going to say this to you again. I say this stuff out loud. If you stand behind me, if you hear me, if you were jogging, if you were behind me jogging today, you know what you hear me saying? Kevin, are you going to be pitiful or are you going to be powerful today? You going to be a complainer or how are you going to have some vision? What are you going to do? Here's one of the things you'll hear me saying quite often. If I have a delay tomorrow, you'll hear me say this. Kevin, your time's your wealth. I work for the Alabama Crimson Tide. Paul Bear Bryant is our legendary coach. I'm down there with Coach Saban now. But his son gave me this. Paul Bear Bryant's son said his father read what I'm going to read right now every single morning before he got out of bed. He reached into his wallet and he pulled this out. This is the beginning of a new day. God's given me this day to use as I will. I can use it for good or I can waste it. What I do today is very important because I am exchanging a day of my life for it. Oh, I know some of you don't see it that way. I'm exchanging a day of my life for it. But what would happen if you did? You know, there's a group of people, they really don't get this talk rule. I call them the ducks. They sound like this all day long. Quack, 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 quack. Now they're down the bar talking about how awful everything is. They call that happy hour. When this day is gone forever, leaving something in this place I've traded for it. I want this to be a gain, not a loss. Good, not evil. Success, not failure. In order that I shall not forget the price I paid for it. First one. Not events. Would you tell yourself? Your time's your wealth. Now here comes number 2, but I got to get a vow from the women that you won't get up and dance, you won't start Cabbage Patch dancing, you won't hit the man beside you, and you won't point at him when I say the next one. I got to get a vow from the women. Okay, ready? Oh, watch. They still ain't going to do it. Watch. Let go of your need to be right. See, I told you she couldn't contain herself. Let it go. Yeah, that's exactly right. You hear what he said? But I am right. Oh, I heard you. They are. Listen. If you, okay, you got to hear this. You got to hear this part. If you could choose between being at peace and being right, if you could choose between hearing somebody you love and care about and you serve and being right, take the peace. Take the understanding. Would you give him a gift? Give it to him. I spent in this little town of Bedford, PA, years ago for the Department of Transportation. And there's a woman right up front. She's starting as soon as I started. How much they paying you, boy? Boy. Hey, how much it costs to feed you? I'm not even trying to be funny. Know what I'm thinking? Did I date you? I'm done. It's over. I go over to her. I said, I don't remember seeing you. I don't ever be meeting you. She said, can I tell you something? I said, you got the momentum. She goes, for 5 years. I asked the Department of Transportation, put a stoplight down in my road. They wouldn't hear it. That's who put this on today. They wouldn't hear it. She said 3 months ago, my parents pulled out of that intersection. Trailer tractor smashed them. I lost them both. But last week, they put the light up. Can I tell you where I was blessed? I didn't go over to listen to her. I went over to tell her. Let go of your need to be right. You do what I just told you, your marriage make it about 6 more months. Let it go. Just let it. I work with I've been with Jimmy Johnson of Dallas. I've been with Bill Cowher. I've been with Nick Saban. I've been with some winners. You know what you don't see? The way they can listen to their people behind the stage and make them feel understood. Mary Kay said, if you see a big sign on everybody says, make me feel important, you'll win. You know what makes people feel important? You getting outside your little world and letting them feel understood. And I'm putting you down. I need to hear this more than anybody here. Let it go. Let me grab some. I'm going to read this if I can find it. This is a poem. It's called The Cookie Thief by Valerie Cox. A woman was waiting at an airport one night with several long hours before her flight. She hunted for a book in the airport shop, bought a bag of cookies, and found a place to drop. She was engrossed in her book, but happened to see that the man beside her, as bold as could be, grabbed a cookie or two from the bag between, where she tried to ignore it to avoid a scene. She munched cookies and watched the clock as the gutsy cookie thief diminished her stock. She was getting more irritated as moments ticked by. If I wasn't so nice, I'd blacken his eye. With each cookie he took one too, but only one was left, and she wondered, now what's he going to do? With a smile on his face and a nervous laugh, he took the last cookie. He broke it in half. He offered her half as he ate the other. She snatched it from him and thought, oh, brother, this guy has some nerve and he's also rude. He didn't show any gratitude. She'd never known she'd been so galled a sigh of relief when her flight was called. She'd gather her belongings and head for the gate. She refused to look back at that ingrate. But as she boarded the plane, she sank in her seat and sought her book that she would like to complete. As she reached in her baggage, she gasped with surprise. There was her bag of cookies in front of her eyes. I got this table here's with me anyway. If mine are here, she moaned with despair, the others were his. He just tried to share. Too late to apologize, she realized with grief. She was the rude one, the thief, the ingrate. You know what would really make that funny if it wasn't so true? How many times I knew I was right, only to find out I was just a cookie thief. Let's get on to number 3. I just whispered this in Jason's ear a minute ago. Ready? Here's a big one. When I work with ball teams, this is one I say the most. The next 2. A Greek said this 2,000 years ago, Epictetus. In Alabama at the university with the football team, we call this mental clutter. Ready? Oh, I know that people have different questions. Here it comes. Some things are within the power of your control and some things aren't. So? Sometimes I say that one right out loud. Kevin, some things within the power of your control, some aren't. You get all freaked out, mad, but it ain't within your control. Why don't you let it go? Is there any chance you can make your head a simpler place? Somebody just faxed me this. I was looking at it happen in December. But think about this. A car falls on a child. First documented case, this is what I really get into most with ball players, is a Packard. Now, it just happened in Kansas in December. It was in a driveway. A guy saw a car falling. It was a Packard. A woman goes over to the car. See, this defies science. She picks up the car. You heard of that, haven't you? What was she thinking? She wasn't. How quiet's your head? I work for the Philadelphia Eagles right now. Let me make a statement. They don't need me. They need the Pope. Whew. Thought some of our problems went to Dallas. I might have been wrong. Some of you get that later. We had a good crowd. I've been with the Miami Hurricanes for years. We had a guy named Ray Lewis. He's now at the Ravens. We had T.O. in Philadelphia. T.O. and the Ravens were playing. Sorry, T.O. and the Eagles were playing Ray Lewis and the Ravens. Now, I know some of you saw it. Terrell Owens scored a touchdown. He started doing the dance. I don't have my groove on tonight, but he started to imitate, if you will. I'm kind of like Steve Martin in A Jerk. He started to imitate Ray Lewis. Does this make sense to you? If somebody says something about you and you get upset, aren't you saying what you think of me is more important than I think of me? Aren't you saying I made what you think my business? I'm going to say something to every one of you, but I need to hear it. Know who you are. So they brought Terrell Owens to the podium and said, why you hate him? Why'd you imitate him? What you got against him? He said, he's a crook. He's no good. Why don't somebody lock him up and throw away the key? Now watch my hand. See that left hand? That's called stimulus. This is called response. Stimulus, the marker goes down, like today. Response, you're depressed. Stimulus, your husband leaves you. Response, you're depressed. Stimulus, your husband stays. This is called choice. That's what that's called. So they put on Ray Lewis the next day, brought him up to the podium, and said, Ray, they said you're a crook. He said you're no good. He said, lock you up and throw away the key. He said, I heard him. It goes, your turn. Tell him if the world ever turns its back on him. Tell him if he ever needs a good friend. My heart, my home, my dinner table is open to him. What do you do with that? It's a choice. I got an X5 BMW. I pulled into the bank where I live. Guy comes by in a 1983 Dodge pickup truck. Looks like Junior Samples from Hee Haw. They still play Hee Haw 5 nights a week prime time in West Virginia. I was in California last week. Some guy in the back room screamed, on the Education Channel. He takes the mirror off my car. This shouldn't have happened. This is awful and terrible. I can't stand it. Now, I don't care if you caught anything I said tonight. I don't know if you caught anything I said. But if you didn't catch anything, I'm going to ask you to tune in to catch this. I need to hear this more than any one of you. But the best thing I got for you tonight in this beautiful city is what I'm going to say next. If any one of us lost everything we got today, and all we got back tomorrow is what we had today, tomorrow's the best day of your life, isn't it? Ain't nobody woke up in a cancer wing or an AIDS unit underneath the bridge. I spoke at the Ritz-Carlton down in Charlotte last week. Some woman just powerful stood up, the same kind of thing, stood up and says, you know what, you're absolutely right. I can't even sit here anymore. She's talking about Haiti. She goes, we're all in the Ritz-Carlton tonight. There's people who don't even have rooms in the world. I got to get off of this spoiled brat thing I can get into. So my little girl comes running in the room screaming, top of her lungs, something's wrong with Jared, my little wild horse rider, little chip off the old block, little crazy thing. I pick him up, eyes rolled back in his head, nothing coming out of his mouth. I know I'm losing him. My wife screaming, top of her lungs, we're losing him. He's choking to death. So she's going her fingers down his throat. He snaps right out of it. Not choking to death. You know how you women get them big old balls that big, them Pilates balls? He finds hers, lays over top of it, stomach down, and he bounces up and down off of that thing till he knocked himself out cold and silly. I just wish he wasn't like me, really, if you want me straight. But he's all right. Now I walk by my car. You know, the mirror thing I was talking about a minute ago? And you know what I'm thinking now? Why don't somebody blow it up? I'll dance around the fire for it if you need me to. I'd care less. But I was getting all freaked out. Oh, you know the things we get crazy about? I wrote this book called True Greatness. Here's the opening line. It was a fictional story about a man that interviewed a dog. So he asked the dog, he said, you're a greyhound, you're a champ, you're a racer. Why'd you retire? Weren't you winning your race? I won every race. Didn't you feel good? He said, I felt unbelievable. So why'd you retire? He said, you know that little rabbit they had us chasing? I learned something about that rabbit. It's not real. All right, now. Can I explain this to you now since you got your wonderful food out of the way? Listen to this phrase. So the first one was no mental clutter. Some things you control, some things you can't. If I got to tell you the one that I do with the winners is what I'm going to give you right now. Have anyone ever heard this phrase, intentionality? Let me explain what intentionality is. Ready? Intentionality is this practice. Do you understand that attitude is not a gene, it's a muscle? What did I just say? If I don't exercise a muscle, I don't know what your spirituality is. I'm not trying to proselytize you to my religion. But whatever it is, if you're not constantly exercising it, it fades away. Somebody went to Zig Ziglar once and says, I don't believe in motivation, it wears off. He said, so is a bath. I ain't against bathing. Intentionality is, do you know how my man here trains his body getting ready for the season? Do you understand what I'm going to say next? Do you know you train your eyes to see what you want to see? Let me give you an example. Think about the car you drive right now. The day after you bought that car, did you not see it everywhere? I bought a BMW. I said 700 of them on my block. I didn't realize it. So here comes. Ready? Put in your head over and over and over and over and over what you want. Get out of your head what you don't want. Here comes a good one for you. Worry is praying for what you don't want. Here comes another one for you. You either live in vision or you live in circumstance. Oh, I'm talking about your marriage. I'm talking about your business. I'm talking about whatever you're doing. You're living in one or the other. Now, which one is it? And what you have to do is keep putting in your head what you want. Get out of your, this will make it plain. Guy comes into a pharmacy, has a bad cough. Pharmacist is at lunch. Young clerk's behind the counter. I think you're with me so far, but try to stay with it. So the guy comes in to get some cough suppressant for his cough. The pharmacist is at lunch. So the young clerk gives the man, he can't find any cough suppressant, you understand. So he gives the man a laxative. Don't get ahead of me. Pharmacists come back after lunch. Did anything happen when I was gone? Yeah, guy came in, had a bad cough. I looked over for some suppressant. I gave the guy laxative. Pharmacist said, wait a minute. Laxative won't stop somebody from coughing. Young clerk said, sure it will. Look at that guy standing over there trying real hard not to cough. Some of you get that later. Stop up, see Michael. He'll explain it to you. Take it easy on your dessert. Please listen to me. If you want peace, put that in front of you. Read about it. Keep on talking to people about it. I don't want to hurt your feelings, but be careful with your friends. I read an article that says your best friends in Wall Street Journal a while back. It says your best friend loses 10 pounds. You have a 75% chance of losing 10 pounds. I called every friend I got. Said, you're too chubby. Tell them, look, we don't need to get into those conversations about what's wrong. Let's talk about vision. Let's talk about touching somebody. Let's talk about peace. Let's talk about doing something for somebody. Let's talk about it. I know the city I'm in. See, they made one mistake when they came after this city. They thought they'd take the buildings. They thought they'd take the people. They'd take the spirit. Didn't touch it. Didn't touch it. Didn't touch the city spirit. Boy, they made a bad mistake in judgment. Didn't touch the city spirit. My favorite place to speak is right here. I don't get received anywhere, and I'm even shocked you understand me up in here. Better than here, because you can't touch the spirit. So watch what I'm saying. Attitude is a must. Put it in and put it in. I work for the Green Bay Packers. One of our players, Charles Woodson, almost killed me on this one because he went to Michigan. Michigan gets beat by Appalachian State. Now, he about killed me. I just brought that up. He started looking at me like that. Interviewed a quarterback afterwards. It's amazing. It's amazing. How'd you do it? Quarterback said, we watched them on film all summer till we saw opportunity on the film. When I walked in, I wasn't looking at Michigan. I was looking for opportunity. It showed up. My eyes were trained. Put in front of you. I'd do something called the pocket promise. I got something I read every morning to train my eyes. And I got off Jim Carrey. Jim Carrey checked himself. I will be a $20 million a movie actor. He read it every morning. His father passed away. He put that check in the casket with his father. Next week he signed Batman Forever. Oh, I got an easy one for you. How much you get? You either live in vision or you live in circumstance. You train the eyes. Last story to bring this home. I'm in Disney World about 5 years ago with my 3-year-old and my 1-year-old. Have any of you been at Disney for 4 days with a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old? Can I get a witness? God bless you. I knew I liked this table. I'm beat up. I'm waterlogged. I've got rashes. Mickey Mouse walked by me. I got the urge to sucker punch Mickey Mouse. The guy's killed me over there. I got one of them wonderful wives. I mean, my wife, and she looked at me and says, are you happy? I'm like, look at me, woman. Ain't nothing on me happy. My shoestrings even ticked off. I'm watching a play, The Sword and the Stone, one actor, Marlon, big hat, moons and stars. He was 2 people come pull the sword out of stone. I slide my chair back. I don't need to drive the football. I'm ready to take a knee. Got 2, a little girl 10, a little girl 11. There's not a hair on her head. Had a button on that said Make-A-Wish of Eastern Tennessee. They were happy. Happy to me. Then they wanted a tumor. They got a tumor. Their mothers. They were happy. Now I'm confused. I'm sitting there now as baffled as Adam on Mother's Day. That was quick up in there. I got to explain that in West Virginia. Okay, I got it. Watch what happened. Watch this. Ready? You and I both know those mothers went through hell. My guess is they're going to go through hell. You know why they're happy? They weren't in hell. They were in Disney. See, I had on my sunblock, I had my babies. I was in a good mood. I walked right in. Oh, if I could hear the words coming out of your mouth for a day, I could about tell you where you are. Spoken words about as powerful as it can be. They walked and said, I'm going to pull joy out of here. Got it. Here's what they had. Eyes. They saw it. This is what Browning goes in one of her poems, the world's stuffed with burning bushes. Those who see take off their shoes, but most just sit around picking blackberries. That's it. Put it in and put it in. You'll start to see it. Now, here comes my big one. I walk through airports. I see, actually, I just went in Phoenix the other day. I heard Larry Fitzgerald, one of their athletes, scream this at me. He knew me from Pitt. Ready? So what should I put in my head? You'll see this story next week. USA Hockey came from the Penguins. I've been with them for years. It's a Penguin where I got this one. USA Hockey was supposed to win the gold medal in the Olympics in Japan. They did not. The Czech Republic won it. Captain was a guy named Jaromir Jagr. He wears number 68 when he plays. Because 1968 was the year of the Russian occupation of Czechoslovakia. Oh, he's their captain next week. They beat everybody. They beat Canada in a gold medal game. Game before, Russia. Referee walked in and said, ice time. This guy stood up. So I waited my whole life for today. I dedicate this to my grandfather and anyone who lost their life during the occupation. Can I ask you a question? I'd love to come down your table and ask you this question. I'd like to sit beside you and ask you this question. Do you have one? Do you have one? What is it? What, and do you keep your eye on it? I'm speaking next Tuesday in Shoals Creek. It's in Birmingham, Alabama. This story's out of Shoals Creek. Merrill Lynch put on an outing for blind golfers every year in Shoals Creek. The very last year they did it, they brought in Arnold Palmer. He goes up to a guy that wins it every year, a blind golfer from New Orleans, goes up to him and said, that's amazing. He's an attorney. That's amazing you can golf blind. Guy says, I'm good. They stand right above this hole. They ring this bell. My hearing's so keen, I shoot the ball to the bell. Palmer goes, amazing. So I can beat you. He said, I'm Arnold Palmer. He said, let's make it interesting. I'll bet you $5,000 we go out for 18 holes, I'll beat you. Palmer said, okay, when do you want to go out? The blind guy goes, 10 o'clock tonight. You got to keep your eye on it. I'm going to tell you this story, and you tell me if I know my crowd. Can I give you to my 68? Can I give it to you in a story? This is my newsletter. And you give me your cards afterwards. I'll give you my newsletter. We'll send it to you. But it's in my newsletter. I think this is what took my book up, this story right here. Best 68 I know. I'm going to ask you, just try it. A man named Dan Clark tells a story. He said, I'm going to the circus years ago. My dad changed me this day. My dad didn't even direct a single word at me. We're standing in line at the circus, and there was a family of 5 in front of us. Man didn't have much money. You could see they were plain dressed. They didn't have much. Man and wife, 5 kids. Got him ready to go to the circus. They told him the price, and his head just dropped. Dan said, I could tell by the way he acted that he didn't have the money. My dad heard it all. I heard it all. We were behind. He said, so I watched my dad, and I'll remember this my whole life. He said, my dad pulled a $20 bill out of his pocket and went like this. Then he went to the man up at the window. Excuse me, I think you dropped something. So the man up at the window went, tears came in his eyes. Picked it up. He whispered, thank you, and his family went in. Dan Clark looked at him and said, looked at this. He said, my dad looked at me and said, son, we're not going to circus today. He said, that story changed me. Do you understand what I mean by intentional? That father was looking for a story to go be kind to somebody. Can I tell you my 68? I want my kids to have a story like that about me. That's mine. I get all crying on you up here just telling you that. I want somebody to have a story like that about you. I can't hear what you're saying because what you do speak so loudly. That's mine. My babies. Go give. It'll come back to you. And last part of mental clutter, last part I got for everybody. You know the spiritual side of this, but I'm going to get into the psychological side of this. How many people have heard this? Raise your hand if you have. The major factor on heart disease is type A behavior. Go ahead, raise your hand. It's not true. It's anger. Research out of Duke last month. So here comes one. I'm speaking at something called the $1 Million Roundtable. I got 5,000 people in the audience. But I got to go after a lady, and everyone in this room has seen this lady. This little woman is a giant. She's from Vietnam, but when you saw her, she's run out of the village with her back on fire. She was a little girl. She's done with her speech. I got 5,000 people, New Orleans Conference Center. I'm going next, $1 million round table, and a man goes up to her and says, I know you're about done, but I got to say something to you. I've looked for you everywhere. My name's John Plummer, Captain John Plummer. I gave the orders when you were a little girl. I napalmed that beach. My life don't work and never worked. I've never even really been sober. I don't have a family. I have nothing. But that story's haunted me. This giant of a woman stood on back and said, Mr. Plummer, my wounds healed a long time ago. Go heal yours. He's a Methodist minister. He's sober. He got 5 kids. That woman had to forgive that man for that woman. I'll give you my whole forgiveness strategy. Ready? I just close my eyes and say this. Send them peace if somebody does something to me. If that doesn't work, I send them a gift. If one of you get a Rolex from me, whoo, I'm ticked off. Let me tell you what I told you. Here we come. You guys were wonderful. Number one. Number one. Ready? Above all else, your time's your wealth. You got tonight, take it. Take it. Enjoy one another. Spend it well. Number 2, let go of your need to be right. 3, some things within my control, some things aren't. Number 4, intentionality. Put in my head over and over what I want, get out what I don't want. It sets up the eyes. Next, what should I put in? What's your 68? What matters to you? Keep your eye on. The best one I know is go give to others. And the last one, forgive. Now I'm going to talk about New York City and Michael and this room, and I'm gone. There's a town where people live longer in the United States of America than any other town, and it's about 2 hours from here. And if it's not this city now, especially after 9/11, I don't know what it is. It's called Rosetta, Pennsylvania. And more people over 100 years old live in that town. So they go study why. 100% of the town's Italian. Worst diets in the world. You go ahead and enjoy. They found every home had a huge front porch. And they took time for one another. And they loved one another. And they were family with one another. This, to me, looks like Michael's front porch. To me, it looks like you guys came to honor him and say, we're all friends. Let's hang together. I'm going to tell you something. This city is a big, old, and if this isn't a beautiful front porch, I'm going to tell you what's wrong today. Little boy's trying to hit a doorbell, can't reach it. Priest comes by, says, let me help you, little man. Hits the doorbell. Looks down at the little boy and says, what now? Little boy said, now. Run like hell. You guys gave me a good front porch. This was pretty cool. Keep one on your year. It'll come back to you. I appreciate you guys. Thanks. I'm going to close this. I'm going to close this talk, and I close all my talks with something my father used to say to my mother every time she left for the beauty shop. Best of luck to you. Hey, God bless you guys. Thanks for having me. You guys are fun over in here. Thanks, you guys. You go and enjoy.